The party reaches their destination.
And they come face to face with servants of Khorne. Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to Roleplay Chat.
And welcome back to the Blood and Betrayal campaign diary. And today is our season finale.
Ooh.
So if we continue where we left off last time, the party was in almost like an abandoned campsite, torn down village, and they found markings of beastmen. Randall, who's very good at tracking wild animals, started, he did some checks to make sure if he could figure out which direction the enemy's headed. He was quite successful, and the party continued to head towards the direction that was marked on Dietrich's map.
Yeah, and they kind of come to the realization that they're probably not going to reach them in time, and they need to rest, otherwise they'll be too tired to actually deal with the confrontation that they expect to happen. So they rest a little bit, and then they start going during the night, I believe, right? They really, before dawn, they start heading, following the tracks, trying to surprise their prey.
As they are sneaking through the woods, they actually have there's a storm that happens, which helps them in shifting through the night and using the cover of trees to sneakily work their way towards their destination.
They hear thunder booming and booming. Boom. And at one point they kind of noticed, well, this thunder is really there's a lot of it for the number of lightning there is, even if it's a big storm.
Yeah. And it's very rhythmic.
It's rhythmic, and they realize, wait, there's a huge beast really close to us that's walking alongside us.
So the party stops in their tracks and looks in every direction. And far enough in the distance, at a safe distance, let's say, they notice something enormous. Crunching, eating something hunched over in a small, barrow in the ground, in the woods.
Getting closer and closer to make sure they're safe, they see that this hulking beast is in fact a troll, a forest troll, that's eating rocks out of the ground.
So they see this opportunity as a chance to strike quickly. Ungrim charges in. Dietrich starts to channel blue magic, and because of the rain and the storm, feels an immense surge in power.
The lightning surrounds them, and Dietrich, with his power, manages to take lightning coming down from the sky and reorient it towards the troll multiple times.
Ungrim is there, hacking and slashing, and we're able to fell this thing in record time. The beast hits the ground, and the party is able to continue towards the beastmen, because they don't have any time to spare. As they continue towards their destination, they enter an opening in the forest. There's a small river that opens up wide and curls around a large rock, almost like a little cliff, like a plateau of sorts. The party works their way towards the plateau when they hear singing, chanting words that they're unfamiliar with, a dark tongue that's been lost and forgotten.
And they see down from their vantage point. Vantage point?
Vantage point.
The vantage point, yeah. They see three humanoid, probably human, being tied up upside down by the feet, with a circle of beastmen surrounding them, and the chanting of someone clearly doing some kind of ritual, and they have a dagger in hand, and they're about to be sacrificed in a dark ritual.
Yeah, one can only assume when you hear this kind of singing and chanting, with that setup, something bad's gonna happen soon. So the party decides to continue to act fast. They look at each other quickly, strategize quickly, and Randall puts himself volunteer to cross the river, sneak through the woods, and try to get as close as he can to these people being tied up. Ungrim...
Sorry, I'm just saying Randall knows that if he gets caught there alone, he's toasted.
Oh, he's done. Yeah. It's a high risk, high reward strategy that the party's deciding to use here. Ungrim, who, as usual, wants to face it head on and even create a distraction for Randall, runs up to the edge of the plateau and kind of tries to jump down in as safe a way possible, kind of sliding along the side of the cliff face.
But surprisingly, he didn't notice that at the bottom of the cliff was a minotaur. So he's basically jumping there, surprising the minotaur, but surprising himself too. And he starts just fighting this thing. And the beastmen that were around the circle start to head towards him to dispatch of this slayer, while the leader of this ritual is continuing to chant and is not paying attention after sending his men after the dwarf.
At this point, the rain has calmed down. The storm isn't as strong as it once was, but things are still pretty wet. The river is flowing and surging, in some places creating puddles. So as the beastmen approach to fight Ungrim, Diedrich tactically zaps his lightning bolts into the water at the same time as many of the enemies as possible enter it, causing kind of a chain reaction of sorts, really elevating the strength of the lightning.
Yeah, as the beastmen are receiving this surge of lightning and killing some of them, they're still advancing, but the ritual is still going. And Randall was hoping that the beastmen would just stop and go deal with this distraction, and he could like save them. But the ritual is still going. The leader is still there. So Randall tells his pet hawk Hackerel to come down on this big bestigor, this hulking beast of a man, and steal his dagger before he can kill the helpless victims.
This is definitely something that, would take a lot of training, and although Hackerel is very well trained, this might be a little bit too much for him. He swoops down and there's a moment of hesitation. The party and Randall are unsure, is Hackerel gonna be able to do this? But in a stroke of luck, maybe the sun, as it rose, shined into the eye of the beast and gave Hackerel the opportunity to snatch it right out of the paws of this vile creature.
This sacrificial dagger now out of the hand of this beastman. This beastman looks around and is like, what's going on? And he's reaching for his axe and his shield, trying to find someone who's responsible for this. And he sees Randall and just starts running. And beastmen in the forest run fast, even though it's a big creature. And Randall, being smart, just turns around and starts running. And being the forester that he is, still manages to run at the similar pace than the beastmen behind him.
Time is now even more of the essence. The rest of the party is still fighting this Minotaur, the other beastmen in the river. Ludolf is there, really absorbing as much of the blows as he can. Thankfully, Ungrim, as always, is swinging his axe and is able to fell the Minotaur without too much, without taking too much injuries to himself.
Yeah, as Ludolf is defending and using his shield to hold a line, he notices behind him, carved inside the rocks, inside the cliff, is a door depicting what they will find to be the symbol of Khorne, the chaos god of blood and murder.
Very much a demon of sorts, right? I'm not too familiar with the lore of Warhammer.
Well, he's the god of the demons.
Okay,
right?
there you go.
Demons are under him, so.
So a pretty nasty guy. And now things are starting to come together. These beastmen, a vile ritual that they're performing right by presumably some kind of cave or tomb dedicated to a king of demons or a god of demons. So this fight continues on, and most of the smaller creatures were able to defeat. The big beastigor that's tracing Randall comes pretty close to striking him when he realizes that he's completely outnumbered.
Yeah, his men are just gone, obliterated by the rest of the party. So he decided, I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna fight them. I see the Slayer. I see the wizard snapping everybody. I'm just booking out of here.
So now there's a moment of calm, and the party approaches this circle of sacrifice that they've kind of fell upon.
Yeah.
They see three people tied up, to poles upside down, right? They're upside down.
Yeah, they're upside down, and they're basically, it's a slaughterhouse, right? Like they're gonna cut them and bleed them out of, and they see kind of a container that has a hole inside, kind of a sarcophagus kind of stone, but there's a container for the blood, and it's gonna send the blood down a tube in the earth. And knowing that this is a kind of a tomb of some champion of Khorne, this blood is sent down to feed this weird tomb and do the sacrifice. So they see all of that, and they realize they really saved those people.
So they approach them and notice that they have bags tied around their neck and we can't see their faces. So we approach the first one, who seems to be a woman in some form of like leather armor or what's left of it. And they undo the bag and take the bag off her face, and they see, you know, she's unconscious. She's a woman with a big X, almost like a scar from something that happened long ago along her face. She has blonde hair, all messy. Who knows how long she's been in the possession of these vile demon creatures.
The next one, they remove the bag, the same thing, and they notice an older man, but strong, and he has a bandana over his head, over his eyes, as if he's blind. Mm-hmm. And he is dressed as a priest of Ulrich, so they kind of make two and two, and they realize that the pendant they found of the wolf was probably his, and they're happy to have reached their target.
And then they go to the last person, and they kind of recognize some of the clothes. He's wearing dark...
But there's no weight, right?
Yeah, like the dark clothes. I mean, there's a lot of shady people in Middenheim, so they probably came across him there. And as they go to take off the bag, they see Otis. And that's where we're going to stop for today's episode and the season finale.
So this is the end of this season, but we'll definitely continue with this Blood and Betrayal campaign diary. We're just cutting it in pieces to make it more palatable and easy to watch. So what we're going to do, in a later time, we'll do kind of a summary of the whole season, this what we call season 1, to catch people so they don't have to go through everything all at once, mm-hmm. and then we'll continue. But something interesting is that this coincided with a moment where one of our players was leaving for months, and we kind of did a side quest where we basically followed the people who were just saved to see how did they end up there.
Yeah, so the next Blood and Betrayal season is going to be about this woman with the X scars on her face and the blind priest of Ulrich and a few of their companions, and it's going to get us almost like a parallel story that's going to end in the same place where the heroes find them being sacrificed. So I hope you guys look forward to that, and you actually won't need to watch that other story if you don't want to, or vice versa. So if you have friends who you think might like this kind of stuff, feel free to share and tell them, you know, the next season is going to be independent from this one, although complementary. So there's definitely going to be like cool tidbits and snapshots into the other episodes.
But for now, this is where we gonna finish this season, and we hope you liked it. We learned a lot doing it. We're still gonna do after this the behind the GM screen. So next week you'll have this, and we'll maybe reflect a little bit on this season as a whole. But yeah.
So I think that is everything for this season of the Blood and Betrayal campaign, Chris.
That's all, Matt.
Let's call it a chat.